Oh yeah, we back at it again, baby. It's been a minute, but this here is well needed, well needed. Today we gonna be talking about some of the most ancient of ancient sciences. We're gonna be going into the Emerald tablets of Thoth-The Atlantean, translation and interpretation by Dorel, as well as I will be giving my commentary. In this here book lies the secrets of life and the secrets of death. This is probably the most important book ever written when it comes to humanity. The secrets of who we are, the secrets of unlocking our true potential and just unlocking the God man within us. The secret of knowing that which lies dormant within us. Now we're going to go over a brief history of the Emerald tablets or Thoth himself. The history of the tablets translated in the following pages is strange and beyond the belief of modern sciences. Their antiquity is stupendous, dating back 36,000 years BC. The writer is Thoth, an Atlantean priest king who founded a colony in ancient Egypt after the sinking of the mother country, which is Atlantis. He was the builder of the Great Pyramid of Giza, erroneously attributed to Cheops, or they mean Khufu. That's what they mean. So I'm going to say this, because a lot of people think Khufu built the pyramid in Egypt, the Great Pyramid in Egypt. He did not, okay? As we can see clearly right here. Anyway, in it he incorporated his knowledge of the ancient wisdom and also secreted records and instruments of ancient Atlantis. See, I've been telling y'all way back that Egypt was set up to preserve the knowledge of Atlantis, and only a small amount of people, meaning those that were initiated into the mystery schools or the order of Melchizedek, which is an ancient priesthood that go back to Atlantis. The order of Melchizedek, they were the ones that were privileged to undergo the sacred teachings of that which was preserved by Thoth-The Atlantean. Now let me continue. For some 16,000 years, he ruled the ancient race of Egypt. From approximately 50,000 years BC to 36,000 years BC. I'm going to say something. See, this is where it goes to where, you read stuff by Elijah Muhammad talking about the last great civilization, the last greatest civilization that the original people of the planet, original people meaning black people, the last greatest civilization that he claims that we had was 50,000 years ago. Now this is in accord with it, believe it or not. Okay. At that time, the ancient barbarous race among them, which he and his followers had settled, had been raised to a high degree of civilization. See? High degree of civilization. And Elijah said that that's when we was at our highest peak. 50,000 years ago. And yet it's claiming that Thoth and his followers had been raised to a high degree of civilization. Anyway, moving on. Thoth was an immortal. That means he was an ascended master. That is, he had conquered death, see, passing only when he willed, and even then, not through death. That's because he had achieved the Merkaba. He had achieved the light body. Not only that, he was able to do transmigration, as we will soon find out. So, where was I? Okay. His vast wisdom made him ruler over the various Atlantean colonies, including the ones in South and Central America. When the time came for him to leave Egypt, he erected the Great Pyramid over the entrance to the great halls of Amenti. Amenti is the subterranean world in which the Greeks called Hades, in which the people of Tibet call Agartha. So there is an inner world inside of our planet Earth, hollow Earth. Also, Amenti is also the deep part of your subconscious mind. Therefore, everything that is physical has a spiritual side to it. This is yin and yang. This is the counterpart of the physical and spiritual. Okay, continuing on. Now, when the time came for him to leave Egypt, he erected the Great Pyramid over the entrance of the great halls of Amenti, placed in it his records, and appointed guards for his secrets from among the highest of his people. In later times, the descendants of these guards became the pyramid priest, while Thoth was deified as the god of wisdom. So y'all know who that is. That's talking about Tahuti. So he was known as Tahuti as well. That while he was in Egypt. The recorder. By those in the age of darkness which followed his passing, in legend the halls of Amenti became the underworld. I told y'all this. The halls of the gods, where the souls passed after death for judgment. During later ages, the ego of Thoth passed into the bodies of men in the manner described in the tablets, such as he incarnated 3 times. In his last being known as Hermes, the thrice born. In this incarnation, he left the writings known to modern occultists as the Emerald Tablets, a later and far lesser exposition of the ancient mysteries. The tablets translated in this work are 10, which were left in the Great Pyramid in the custody of the pyramid priest. The 10 are divided into 13 parts for the sake of convenience. The last 2 are so great and far-reaching in their import that at present it is forbidden to release them to the world at large. Damn, that's some heavy shit. However, in those contained herein are secrets which will prove of inestimable value to the serious student. They should be read not once, but 100 times, for only thus can the true meaning be revealed. A casual reading will give a glimpse of beauty, but more intensive study will open avenues of wisdom to the seeker. But now a word as to how these mighty secrets came to be revealed to modern man after being hidden so long. Some 1300 years BC, Egypt, the land of Kim was in turmoil, and many delegations of priests were sent to other parts of the world. Among these were some of the pyramid priests who carried with them the emerald tablets as a talisman by which they could exercise authority over the less advanced priestcraft of races descended from other Atlantean colonies. The tablets were understood from legend to give the bearer authority from Thoth. The particular group of priests bearing the tablets immigrated to South America, where they found a flourishing race, the Mayans, who remembered much of the ancient wisdom. Among these the priests settled and remained. In the 10th century, the Mayas had throughout settled the Yucatan, and the tablets were placed beneath the altar of one of the great temples of the sun god. After the conquest of the Mayas by the Spaniards, the cities were abandoned and the treasures of the temples forgotten. Now I'm going to say something. I got to say this shit. Because it seems that throughout history, the Atlantean Thoth, he migrated with the people, the original people of the planet. But once the Caucasians came on the planet, he was like, I ain't got time to deal with these motherfuckers. Let me go. Because you can't find nowhere in history where Thoth-The Atlantean was amongst the people while the Caucasians were present. I guess he said this, if I ain't finna deal with these uncivilized motherfuckers, they so far gone, ain't no saving them. So you just can't find it where he was amongst the people, unless you can actually prove that Saint Germain could have been Thoth-The Atlantean. Okay? Because that's the only person that was of a higher order that was amongst the Caucasian people, to my knowledge. And maybe others too. But we do know Saint Germain was the one that brought masonry to the Caucasians. And no, not the blood sacrificing, child molesting type of shit. He did not bring that. They didn't get that from Saint Germain. Anyway, let's go. It should be understood that the Great Pyramid of Egypt has been and still is a temple of initiation into the mysteries. Now you see where it say and still is a temple of initiation into the mysteries? That's because the mystery system went underground. It is in the halls of Amenti, aka Agartha. It did not just be done away with. But anyway, Jesus, Solomon, Apollonius, and others were initiated there. The writer, who has a connection with the Great White Lodge, which also works through the pyramid priest, was instructed to recover and return to the Great Pyramid the ancient tablets. These after adventures, which need not be detailed here, was accomplished. Before returning them, he was given permission to translate and retain a copy of the wisdom engraved on the tablets. It was done in 1925, and only now has permission been given for part to be published. It is expected that many will scoff, yet the true student will read between the lines and gain wisdom. If the light is in you, the light which is engraved in these tablets will respond. Now that's some real shit. Now, a word as to the material aspect of the tablets. They consist of 12 tablets of emerald green, formed from a substance created through alchemical transmutation. They are imperishable. Ain't that some shit? Resistant to all elements and substance. In effort, the atomic and cellular structure is fixed. No change ever taking place. In this respect, they violate the material law of ionization. Upon them are engraved characters in the ancient Atlantean language. Characters which respond to attuned thought waves, releasing the associated mental vibration in the brain of the reader. The tablets are fastened together with hopes of golden colored alloy suspended from a rod of the same material. So much for the material appearance. The wisdom contained therein is the foundation of the ancient mysteries. And for the one who reads with open eyes and mind, his wisdom shall be increased 100-fold. Read, believe, or not, but read, and the vibration found therein will awaken a response in your soul. In cosmic harmony, Dorel, supreme voice of the brotherhood. Introduction to the original interpretation of the Emerald Tablets. In the following pages, I will reveal some of the mysteries which as yet have only been touched upon lightly either by myself or other readers. Or other teachers or students of truth. So this would be Maurice Dorel. Going over what his interpretation of the tablets of Thoth-The Atlantean. This would be him giving a brief overview. And just so y'all know, Maurice Dorel, he's something serious when it comes to the occult, the esoteric teachings. I have plenty of his books, but they little tablets, really. But he has very great information concerning the occult. So he's qualified to give his interpretation on this. Man's search for understanding of the laws which regulate his life has been unending. Yet always just beyond the veil which shields the higher planes from material man's vision, the truth has existed, ready to be assimilated by those who enlarge their vision by turning inward, not outward, in their search. This is why the kingdom is within. In the silence of the material senses lies the key to the unveiling of wisdom. He who talks does not know. He who knows does not talk. The highest knowledge is unutterable, for it exists as an entity and planes which transcend all material words or symbols. All symbols are but keys to doors leading to truths. And many times the door is not open because the key seems so great that the things which are beyond it are not visible. If we can understand that all keys, all material symbols or manifestations are but extensions of a great law and truth, we will begin to develop the vision which will enable us to penetrate beyond the veil. All things in all universes move according to law, and the law which regulates the movement of the planets is no more immutable than the law which regulates the material expressions of man. One of the greatest of all cosmic laws is that which is responsible for the formation of man as a material being. The great aim of the mystery schools of all ages has been to reveal the working of the law, which connect men the material, and man the spiritual. The connecting link between the material man and the spiritual man is the intellectual man. For the mind partakes of both the material and immaterial qualities. The aspirant for higher knowledge must develop the intellectual side of his nature and so strengthen his will that he is able to concentrate all the powers of his being on and in the plane he desires. That's meditation. The great search for life and love only begins on the mental plane, on the material plane. Excuse me. Carried to its final goal is complete oneness with the universal consciousness. That's what I'm talking about. The foundation and the material is the first step. Then comes the higher goal of spiritual attainment. In the following pages, I will give an interpretation of the Emerald Tablets and their secret hidden and esoteric meaning. Concealed in the words of Thoth are many meanings that do not appear on the surface. Light of knowledge brought to bear upon the tablets will open many new fields for thought. Read and be wise, but only if the light of your own consciousness awakens the deep-seated understanding which is an inherent quality of the soul. Yes, indeed. Emerald Tablet 1. The History of Thoth-The Atlantean. I, Thoth-The Atlantean, Master of Mysteries, Keeper of Records, Mighty King, Magician, living from generation to generation, being about to pass into the halls of Amenti, set down for the guidance of those that are to come after, these records of the mighty wisdom of great Atlantis, in the great city of Kior, on the island of Undale. Let me say something right quick. Undale. Y'all, I know y'all remember the movie, a lot of y'all anyway. Y'all remember the movie Thor. Y'all remember the guardian, the gatekeeper, the black guy now? His name was Undale. Do y'all think they made that guardian, the gatekeeper, made his name Undale for a reason? Huh? And they made him a black man at that. I'm just saying now. Because we know that the Atlanteans were black people. Shit, we know that. 6,000 years ago and beyond, it was all black people on this planet. We know this shit. The whole planet wasn't no such thing as no Chinese, no Japanese. None of these other races were even thought of. It was just black people on this planet. Okay? So we know all the Atlanteans were all black people. We know this shit. It's just common sense. But do y'all think they came up with the idea of making the movie Thor from the people of Atlantis? Think about the movie Thor, what it was on Thor's home planet. Think about Undale. Think about the advanced technology that they had. Could that been a replica of Atlantis that they were showing us right in our face unknowingly? Anyway, continuing on. In a great city of Kior on the island of Undale, in a time far past, I begin this incarnation, not as the little man of the present age, did the mighty ones of Atlantis live and die, but rather from aeon to aeon did they renew their life in the halls of Amenti, where the river of life flows eternally onward. Now let me say something about this halls of Amenti and the renewing of life. There is a central sun in Amenti, aka the underworld, aka Agartha. And this central sun, these photon light particles, regenerates the body in its whole totality. It is unlike the sun the sun rays that we receive, being that we are on the surface, or we are on the roof of this big house, aka planet. Okay, anyway, let me continue. 100 times 10 have I descended the dark way that led into light, and as many times have I ascended from the darkness into the light, my strength and power renewed. See, this here is when you deal in magic. When you use the dark side of magic to alchemically convert it to the light side of magic. So you merge both with one another. And this is what Thoth-The Atlantean is talking about. This is alchemy. That's what he's talking about. And they showed the shit in the movie Doctor Strange. Where Doctor Strange, his master teacher, which was a female, she was using the dark forces to sustain her life where she would never die. They put this shit right in the movie. And Thoth is talking about this shit. Listen. 100 times 10 have I descended the dark way that led into light. And as many times have I ascended from the darkness into the light. My strength and power renewed. They showed this shit in the movie Doctor Strange. That's why Doctor Strange, master teacher, she would never die. She was old as fuck. That's what they claimed in the movie. Anyway, let's continue. I advise y'all to go study the movie Doctor Strange. Not just watch it. Study that motherfucker. Because they dropping jewels in that movie. Now from time. Excuse me. Now for a time I descended. And the man of Kim. Now for a time I descend, and the men of Kim shall know me no more. But in a time yet unborn, I will arise again, mighty and potent. Now I'm gonna just say this. Y'all know in the Bible where it say Enoch never died, and in the book of Enoch it say that Enoch himself gonna be with the Lord of Spirits on a great and final judgment. Well, it's talking about Thoth, because we know Enoch is Thoth. And there we have it right here again. Now for a time I descend, and the men of Kim shall know me no more. But in a time yet unborn, I will arise. I will rise again, mighty and potent, requiring an accounting of those left behind me. Then beware, O men of Kim, if ye have falsely betrayed my teaching. For I shall cast ye down from your high estate into the darkness of the caves from whence ye came. Ooh. Shit real. Shit real. To me, I ain't gonna lie, Thoth kind of sounded like the Christ, goddamn. He coming to get rid of all you tyrants. All of you that have misused the knowledge that he gave. He's coming to get rid of all you nothing ass motherfuckers. He sounded like the Christ that the Bible talk about. Nay, that you say something, think not that I bring peace, but a sword. That's what the Bible say. He coming for blood. So he coming to get rid of all y'all ass, put y'all ass back in the darkness of the caves from whence you came. Betray not my secrets to the men of the north, nor the men of the south, lest my curse fall upon ye. So he's saying don't give it to nobody other than those that it is required. That's why in Egypt, if you read Stolen Legacy, the Egyptians, the black people, did not allow foreigners into their mystery schools. So Thoth is saying the same shit that the Egyptians taught. Then you had Akhenaten allowing foreigners in, and Egypt was overthrown. And guess what happened to Akhenaten? A curse fell upon his ass because they wound up killing him. To my knowledge. I don't know what happened back then. I wasn't there, but that was some of the shit I read. Now let's continue. Betray not my secrets. You see it. Remember and take heed my words, for surely I will return again and require of thee that which ye guard. Even from beyond time and from beyond death I will return, requiring or punishing as ye have requited your trust. Great were my people in the ancient days, great beyond the conception of the little people now around me. Now let us look at Maurice Durrell's interpretation of this. The passing of Thoth into the halls of Amenti was not the change we call death. He merely placed his physical body beneath the ray force, later referred to as the cold flower of life, where it would be reserved indefinitely. As Thoth, he would not return. But while his body rested in suspended animation, I've been saying this shit. I got a book called, not a book, but I got a video called Transmigration. And in that video, I go into how Thoth-The Atlantean will go and put his body in suspended animation, and he will transfer his soul to the body of another. Or we would say basically like a clone. Okay? Continuing on. As Thoth, he would not return. But while his body rested in suspended animation, his consciousness entered many bodies and lived many lives. Kior was the city of the priesthood of Atlantis on Undel, the island just opposite Unal. There were two cities, or rather two divisions, of one great city that covered the island. The island was entirely Kior was the city of the priesthood of Atlantis, Unal, on Undel, the island just opposite Unal. There were two cities, or rather two divisions, of one great city that covered the island. The island was entirely surrounded by terraced walls and divided across the center by a high wall. Kior faced Unal and was occupied by the priesthood, while the other side of the island was known as Chien and was occupied by the philosophic and scientific groups. No one was allowed on either part of the island excepting by a pass signed by the leaders of a group. The mighty ones referred to were the adepts of Atlantis, and these were 13 in number. Thutmose, father of Thoth, aka Enki, was head or chief of the 13. They operated on the principle of what later became the Great White Lodge. You see that number 13? Now that shit make me think about the so-called 13 royal bloodlines that rule the world today. Could this be a connection? Who knows? Could this actually be those people that have preserved the knowledge and are misusing this shit, and Thoth-The Atlantean is finna come back and fuck them up like it says over here? Huh? Where it say, then beware, O man of Kim, if you have falsely betrayed my teachings, for I shall cast ye down from your higher state into the darkness of caves from which ye came. Could this be what he's talking about? Because according to David Wilcox, he said that an insider told him that these people in power today, they claim to be those people that were in those people that were ruling in Egypt. And they just bred themselves into the Caucasians of today. And also in this book here, Thoth-The Atlantean, they talk about these reptilian looking people, snake looking people who could change their form, and they went into Atlantis. They could change their form through magic. Basically, they had the ability to shapeshift. And they went into the high offices of Atlantis at the time, and they killed the high officials off and shapeshifted into those people, looking like those people, and they infiltrated Atlantis. Could this be the same people that did the same thing to the ancient Egyptians? Huh? Could Akhenaten have been a part of that brotherhood? Huh? Could it be that the people today ruling are those same ones, reptilian, shape-shifting people that have preserved our knowledge underhandedly? Could it be? Just something to think about. Anyway, continuing on. They knew the way to the halls of Amenti, where for a time they will lie beneath the flower of life and rejuvenate their bodies. Unlike the masters, they did not leave their bodies there while they incarnated in other bodies, but they only bathed in the fire of life and renewed their bodies. Thoth himself had descended to Amenti 1,000 times to renew his body. And as this was necessary about once every 50 years, Thoth was approximately 50 years old at the time of writing. He was 20,000 years old at the time of the sinking of Atlantis. Ooh, boy. And here we living like damn flies. We live in the life extension of insects. Compared to that, that's a damn life extension of an insect. Shit. 50, 100 years old. So, that's something to think about. Therefore, the writing of the tablets must have occurred about 20,000 years ago. Thoth lay his original body beneath the flower of light to be taken up again when he desires and sends his consciousness into other bodies through birth. He says definitely that he will rise again in the flesh in a time yet to come. Now let's get back over here what Thoth is saying. We'll get back on the interpretation by Maurice Durrell in just a second. But we're going to get back over here so we can align this thing the proper way. Okay? Knowing the wisdom of old, knowing the wisdom of old, seeking far within the heart of infinity, knowledge that belonged to earth's youth. Wise were we with the wisdom of the children of light, who dwelt amongst us. Strong were we with the power drawn from the eternal fire. And of all these, greatest among the children of men was my father, Thoth-Me, keeper of the great temple, link between the children of light, who dwelt within the temple, in the races of men who inhabited the 10 islands, mouthpiece after the three of the dweller of Unal, speaking to the kings with a voice that must be obeyed. Now he talking about Enki, his father, Lord Enki. Remember, he's called Lord Enki. He didn't get the title Lord for nothing. Shit, it's talking about speaking to the kings with a voice that must be obeyed. Shit, he got to have some type of power title. Anyway, grew I there from a child unto manhood, being taught by my father the elder mysteries, until in time there grew within the fire of wisdom, until it burst into a consuming flame. So, right there, Thoth, his father taught him, Enki taught him. The Bible say he walked with God. What God? It's talking about Enki. Yahweh. Okay, because Enki was known as Ea, short for Yahweh. So basically, after he had been initiated through the mysteries, he was worthy of receiving the consuming flame. See? Until in time there grew within the fire of wisdom, until it burst into a consuming flame. Now that's the Kundalini. Alright? So right here we are witnessing that Thoth achieved the awakening of Kundalini. Now let me continue. Not desired I, but the attainment of wisdom, until on a great day the command came from the dweller of the temple that I be brought before him. Few there were among the children of men who had looked upon that mighty face and lived. For not as the sons of men are the children of light, when they are not incarnate in a physical body. So here he's talking about being inside the light body, not inside the physical body. Chosen was I from the sons of men, taught by the dweller, so that his purpose might be fulfilled. Now he was taught by the dweller. So whoever taught Thoth, there's somebody above Thoth. That Thoth has a teacher. So there's someone that's possibly even greater than Thoth. Okay? So it is like, you know how the Bible say, Jesus talk about great things I have done, but ye shall do even greater. So this right here is even in correspondence to that, because somebody taught him, and I'm pretty sure somebody taught him too, the one that taught him. And being that Thoth civilized so many different civilizations, he's done greater things. Anyway, let's continue. Chosen was I from the sons of man, taught by the dweller, so that his purpose might be fulfilled. Purposes yet unborn in the womb of time. Long ago I dwelt in the temple, learning every and yet every more wisdom, until I too approached the light, emanated from the great fire. Taught me he the path to Amenti, the underworld, where the great king sits up on his throne of might. Now we got to stop right here, and we got to talk about the great king, because I made a video talking about the king that lives in Shambhala, Agartha, the king of the world that lives in Amenti. So this is what Thoth is talking about. Alright, the Tibetans call it Shambhala or Agartha. There are so many different names for it. Okay, he's calling it Amenti, Thoth is. The Egyptians called it the halls of Amenti. Alright, but this is the subterranean world, or the hollow earth, inside the core of the earth, not the crust where they make bombs and fucked up ass laboratory experiments, okay, for vaccines and viruses and, bullshit. But he's talking about, when I say our, I'm talking about melanated people's ancestors. All of the world's greatest civilizations throughout history from centuries and centuries and eons ago went into hiding in this place called Agartha, aka the land of the advanced races. This is what he's talking about, and there is a world king that lives inside of this earth. Now, let's continue. Just had to get that out the way. See? Where the great king sits upon his throne of might. Deep I bowed in homage before the lords of life and the lords of death, receiving as my gift the key of life. Now, when you read the book of Enoch, and let's just get this shit absolutely clear. Enoch is the Atlantean. And what you read in the book of Enoch, where he says that he went amongst the throne of the Lord of Spirits, or the great God. He said that his knees began to buckle, and he felt like his body was melting because he just submitted entirely and bowed before him. This is the same shit. So to all you Christians, to all you Muslims, to all the religious world, this great God that it is referring to lives in Agartha, lives in the hollow earth. This is why Ezekiel said he saw wheels coming out of the earth, and up on this wheel stood the Son of Man who had the skin color of amber. Now, I know a lot of you racist motherfuckers don't want to hear this, but bitch, I don't give a fuck, because this is actually documented in too many different books. But the dots must be connected in order to understand it in its whole totality. Now let me continue. Now we see where it say, deep I bowed in homage before the lords of life and the lords of death, receiving as my gift the key of life. Free was I of the halls of Amenti, bound not by death to the circle of life. Far to the stars I journeyed, until space and time became as naught. Then, having drunk deep of the cup of wisdom, I looked into the hearts of men. Now, before we continue, we're going to look at Maurice Durrell's interpretation. Y'all got mine as I was narrating through. Let's see what Durrell has to say. Okay, this time mentioned is spoken of later in the tablets when the invaders from outer space attacked the earth. The secret which he left were the great ships of war beneath the Sphinx and the secret of the pyramids. The men of Chem or Egypt were left as guards, have faithfully fulfilled the command and still guard the secrets. The arcane wisdom he gave them has enabled them to protect the secrets from the people who came after. The people of Thoth were not the mass of Atlanteans, but the group which lived on Undel and comprised the scientific, philosophic, and priest classes. So Maurice Durrell is saying that the people of Thoth were not the mass or the masses of the Atlanteans, but the people of Thoth were the group which lived on Undel. Every time I hear that word Undel, it made me think about that damn movie Thor. Could Thor be a abbreviation for Thoth instead of Thor? Because all you gotta do is change a few words. Shit, you just take the TH off of it and just put an R at the end. Thoth. You know what I mean? Because I'm seeing similarities to this. Anyway, they had learned to seek knowledge at its source, the Akashic records. The children of light came amongst them at times and taught them wisdom which enabled them to take the next step forward. The power of the eternal fire was the fire of the universal consciousness. Thutmose, father of Thoth, aka Enki, was high priest of Undel, the mouthpiece of the children of light and the dweller on Unnel. To the kings and people of the island. Man, this shit reminded me so much of the damn movie Thor. Thoth was taught the mysteries which had been retained in the secret archives of the temple. He had developed in the past to such a degree that he readily grasped the truths which were taught him. The desire for ultimate knowledge aroused such tremendous forces and placed him on such a plane of vibration that the dweller became conscious of him. So once you raise your vibration to a certain extent, so it's like this: wherever you vibrate at, depending on your frequency, is going to attract another being that's on that frequency. So Thoth raised his vibration tremendously till it placed him on a plane of vibration that the dweller became conscious of. Okay, continuing on. The dweller did not have the form or shape that man now has, but occupied a body similar to the bodies occupied by consciousness during the earliest part of the first cycle. The globular body. So this possibly could be a jinn, because according to the Hermetica by Walter Scott, and it's actually the Hermetica is another translation or book of Thoth-The Atlantean. He says that consciousness in its pure stage takes to itself a vesture of fire before it actually enters the soul body. It takes to itself a vesture of fire, consciousness does. So here it says that the dweller did not have the form or shape that man now has, but occupied a body similar to the bodies occupied by consciousness during the earliest part of the first cycle. The globular body. The light and force emitted by such a body was too great for the average human to stand. It was a fucking jinn. I knew it. Only a consciousness on a high plane of vibration could stand it and still remain material. Man, I'm a motherfucker. I know I'm a motherfucker. Because in the Hermetica it says that if that consciousness did not inhabit that soul body first and it went into the physical body, it would totally disintegrate it, because it is far too powerful. The energy is extremely too strong. That's why consciousness first it goes into a vesture of fire, and then that takes to itself a soul, and then the soul enters the physical body, because without the consciousness going into that soul, it will burn that motherfucker into a just disintegrated. And that's what it's saying. Only a consciousness on a high plane of vibration could stand it and still remain material. Man, I'm on my shit. The dweller could see in Thoth. Where I'm at right here. The dweller could see in Thoth one who was ready to have the spark of light fanned into flame. Fanned into flame. The arousing of the flame brought to Thoth life stronger than the life of ordinary man. For as he grew in knowledge, he was shown the path to the halls of Amenti, where the flower of life force of this planet is concentrated. And there found I the greater mysteries and was glad. So remember, he looked to the hearts of man. I mean, he looked into the Akashic records. Okay. For only in the search for truth could my soul be stilled and the flame within quenched. Down through the ages I lived, seeing those around me taste of the cup of death and return again in the light of life. Gradually, from the kingdoms of Atlantis passed waves of consciousness that had been one with me, only to be replaced by spawn of a lower star. In obedience to the law, the word of the master grew into flower, downward into darkness, turned the thoughts of the Atlanteans until at the last in his wrath arose from his Agawinti, the dweller. This word has no English equivalent. It means a state of detachment. Speaking the word, calling the power. Deep in the earth's heart, the sons of Amenti heard, and hearing, directed the changing of the flower of the fire that burns eternally, changing and shifting using the logos until that great fire change its direction. For more information concerning the logos, go read books on Sanat Kumar, the Ascended Master. He was initiated and given authority over the logos. So this Ascended Master, if one wants to understand the logos, go learn about Sanat Kumara. Alright? Anyway, moving on. Over the world then broke the great waters, drowning and sinking, changing earth's balance until only the temple of light was left standing on the great mountain on Undale. Still rising out of the water, some there were who were living, saved from the rush of the fountains. Called to me then the master, saying, Gather ye together my people, take them by the arts ye have learned far across the waters, until ye reach the land of the hairy barbarians, dwelling in the caves of the desert. Follow there the plain that ye know of. Now he talking about Egypt. Now this supposed to be 50,000 years ago. Now I remember reading in one of Elijah Muhammad books, he said prior to 50,000 years ago, we didn't even go into Egypt. I mean, we didn't even go into not just Egypt, but what we call East Asia, which was today is known as Africa. But he said that one of the 12 major scientists, a guy named Shabazz, took his family out there to conquer the wildlife of the jungles. But prior to then, didn't nobody go out in there. They left that part alone. They let the animals live their lifestyle, and they stayed in the civilized world. So here we have where it's talking about some hairy barbarians. And I've heard people say that black people was never barbaric. Shit, you had to been barbaric at one state or not. Shit. Especially if you've been reseeded and put back on the planet and genetically rewired. Originally, if you had 12 DNA strands, put you on the level of a god, and then you got some jealous motherfuckers come and alter you, deactivate you, rewire you, and leave you with only 2 DNA strands, your ass gonna be barbaric. So, a lot of black people, they just so prideful they don't want to admit shit, or they just want to try to boost their morale. But I can understand this shit for what it's saying. And I can see this. Because I look at things in all type of angles. So it's most definitely a possibility that at a time black people were barbaric. And they needed people such as Thoth-The Atlantean to help them. Okay, gather I, then my people, and entered the great ship of the master. So he in a spacecraft. They just that simple. Upward we rose in the morning. Dark beneath us lay the temple. Suddenly over it rose the waters. Vanished from earth until the time appointed was the great temple. See, I'm going to say this because, concerning what Elijah Muhammad taught. He said that 50,000 years ago, Shabazz took his family, his tribe of people, into the jungles of what we call today Africa. And they became masters over the animals. And this altered them. Prior to them, we all had straight hair. That's what he said. But he said after living almost 50,000 years in the jungles of what we call today Africa, our hair began to become kinky. Our nose began to become more wide and broad. Shabazz made a more hard man that would be able to withstand any climate on the planet. This is what Elijah Muhammad taught. Okay, so he made a hard man, a rough man. Okay, and these are the people that either Thoth encountered. There had to be. I'm just trying to put this shit together. Because after living so many years in the jungles, I'm pretty sure that shit gonna have an effect on you. And science has proven certain climates does alter genetics. Okay, so I can see this shit happening. For more information concerning science that proves that climates change a person's genetic mutation on their facial features and stuff like that, go read Source Field Investigation by David Wilcox. You'll get the full breakdown on that shit. Standing before the lords of life and death, he received the key of life and death. We just reading the interpretation of Maurice Doria about what we just read concerning what Thoth had to say in the Emerald Tablets. With the attaining of power over life and death, Thoth was able to lay down his body and at will travel the farthermost extensions of his space-time, of this space-time. After tasting of the wisdom of the cosmos, he found that it was centered in the hearts or minds of men. There he found greater mysteries, for it is through man that the cosmos extends unto unexplored territory. Thoth was born about 20,000 years before the sinking of Atlantis. But because he had accepted a particular work, he did not pass on as others did, who had gained the first illumination. Those who had been around him in youth passed on to Venus to be replaced by a wave of consciousness from Mars. The later wave of consciousness was such that they could not be trusted with the science and wisdom of the earlier Atlanteans, for they would have misused it. The dwellers spoke the word of power, which was heard by the lords of the cycles dwelling in Amenti, and they hearing directed the balance of the earth into new channels, causing the land to sink, carrying with it the science and knowledge which the mass of people had. This knowledge, though nothing in comparison to knowledge of the children of light, was yet too great to remain in the hands of undeveloped ones. The flower of fire is not in the flower of the fire of life, but the pyramid of cold fire, which is the balance of the earth. Now let's just get this. I want to get this clear when it's talking about the lords of the cycles dwelling in Amenti. Now these lords of the cycles are the seven chakras. We just got to get this shit straight, because in each chakra there's an ascended master that is the head of it. Okay, these are certain centers of consciousness, and we being the observer. At your core, you are just the observer. You are observing everything. This is why we are able to be manipulated by ancient genetics. We are able to be manipulated by thoughts. But we are the one that really, when you go to your core, you are the observer. Okay, everything else is just spectrums of consciousness, spectrums of light. But anyway, moving on. The temple of light was not the temple of Unal, but the outer temple of the priesthood on Undal. The temple of Unal was never referred to as a temple, but only as the gateway or place to the dweller. Knowing of what it was composed, it was never thought of as being subject to destruction and was. Hold on, let me reread it. The temple of Unal was never referred to as a temple, but only as the gateway or place of the dweller. Knowing of what it was composed, it was never thought of as being subject to destruction and was, therefore, not considered in the sinking. Only a few of the wise men of Undal were left living when the rest of the land sank. The land of the hairy barbarians is the land now known as Egypt. Kim was the first of learning established by the Atlanteans. From there, they later sent emissaries to other barbarous tribes in different parts of the Earth's surface. This was the plan mentioned to use Kim as the central home of the new race wisdom. So they were just setting up the mystery schools. But let us continue with what Thoth has to say. These are the interpretations to the right of Maurice Durrell. This is from Thoth-The Atlantean. Fast we fled toward the sun of the morning, until beneath us lay the land of the children of Kim. Raging they came with cudgels and spears lifted in anger, seeking to slay and utterly destroy the sons of Atlantis. Then I raised Then raised I my staff and directed a ray of vibration, striking them in their tracks as fragments of stone of the mountains. So he tased their ass. He hit them with a ray gun. Because I remember reading in the book called The Return of the Golden Ones, where it said when Thoth and his entourage got out the spaceships, they was throwing and shit at them, and they took off running back in the spaceship. And Thoth was like, we don't want to hurt them. Basically, he was saying to the other ones, let's not try to hurt them. But they kept on keeping on with the dumb shit, throwing stuff at them. It even said they had like clubs in their hand, trying to hit them with it. And it was saying they was throwing at the spaceship. And Thoth was like, you know what? Fuck this. We got a job we got to do. We didn't come all this way to be pushed aside by these barbaric ass folks. So it was hoped that they would leave and go about their business, but they didn't. These barbarians of a people. So Thoth and his entourage stepped out, and when they came out again, they hit them with that taser. This is why it's saying that then raised I my staff and directed a ray of vibration, striking them still in their tracks as fragments of stone of the mountains. That means he tased their ass. Had them on the ground. He just knocked them out, basically. Made them still as fragments of a stone on the mountain. Then I spoke to them in words calm and peaceful, telling them of the might of Atlantis, saying we are children of the sun and his messengers. Called I them by my display of magic science until at my feet they groveled when I released them. Now I'm going to say something, because there's other shit that's being left out. Because according to Return of the Golden Ones, I can't even remember who wrote that book, but I read this shit years ago. It said that whenever they went back on the spaceship after they had made these people that was acting barbaric become more submissive to them, because of these people thinking that they were gods. They went back on the spaceship laughing and giggling and hee ha ha ha, like, damn, these motherfuckers think we gods. And this is why Thoth-The Atlantean started wearing this helmet that looked like a bird. This is why he's been attributed to as a hawk-headed god, because these people viewed him as a god because of the technology or science they were using at the time. To these so-called primitives, it looked as if the Atlanteans were gods. Okay, long dwelt we in the land of Cam, long and yet long again, until obeying the commands of the Master, who while sleeping yet lives eternally. I sent from me the sons of Atlantis, sent them in many directions, that from the womb of time wisdom might rise again in her children. Now let me say something, because I feel this is very needed and something that must be mentioned. All throughout the world, you find so many similarities. This is why, especially in the ancient world, when you do historical research, you find the cobra all over the world being deified and glorified. You find temples, monuments of statues built everywhere all over the world. They did not build these statues for no reason. And yet the Bible said, thou shalt not make any graven image, such like a statue and shit. And yet Thoth's supposed to have been taught, he's supposed to have been the one that walked with God, and he's the one that taught them to make these statues. According to the Hermetica, Thoth is the one that taught them how to make statues, aka Enoch. So, and they could, according to the Emram tablets, create through sacred, religious, spiritual sciences. I ain't gonna say religious because that's degrading. But through sacred religious, through sacred spiritual practices like ceremonial magic, ceremonial rites, they could invoke certain jinn or demons into certain statues. This was the point of these statues. Also, these statues were to give homage or pay homage to the Elohim or the Watchers. It was just to pay homage. It wasn't that they were worshiping the goddamn statues. Now that shit may have been corrupted over the years, but its original purpose was that in which I just mentioned. So this is why all throughout the ancient world you see replicas similar to each and every one. Like in Egypt, you see the same shit. And you find similarities in India. You find similarities in South America. You find similarities all over the place. Okay? As it says again, I sent from me the sons of Atlantis, sent them in many directions, that from the womb of time wisdom might rise again and her children. So, this was taught originally. It was swept throughout the world from the sons of Atlantis. Long time dwelt I in the land of Kim, doing great works by the wisdom within me. By the wisdom within me. Okay, he was an interdimensional being. Was getting wisdom from different beings and different dimensions because he was tapped in. Okay, due to the power of the mighty Kundalini and his father as well. Upward grew into the light of knowledge the children of Kim, watered by the rains of my wisdom. Blasted I then a path to Amenti, so that I might retain my powers. So his body was put in suspended animation, so that it could rejuvenate his powers, and he would take on the body of another through transmigration. For more information concerning transmigration, go watch my video. It's called Transmigration. I ain't going to all that shit right now. Okay? Living from age to age, a son of Atlantis, keeping the wisdom, preserving the records. Great grew the sons of Kim, conquering the people around them, growing slowly upwards in soul force. Now for a time I go from amongst them into the dark halls of Amenti, deep in the halls of the earth. Deep in the halls of the earth, before the lords of the powers, face to face once again with the dweller. Man, y'all ain't getting this shit. So he went to the core of the earth. He went where the king of the world lives. He went to what Caucasians taught our ancestors was hell. Okay? Hell. Where they so-called claim hellfire is at in the core of the earth. Absolute bullshit. So here we can see from reading these old ass tablets that's over 36,000 years or even 50,000 years old, according to what we just read in the introduction of the preface. We understand now why the Caucasian conquering race, the enslavers, would teach us such shit, because that's where our ancestors went. Okay, but continuing on. Raised I high over the entrance, a doorway, a gateway leading down to Amenti. Few there would be with courage to dare it. Few passed the portal to dark Amenti. You see that? Now let's just have a brief overview of what we just read, but let's see what Maurice Durrell has to say. The ship of the master was a ship comparable of traveling between planets and was armed with weapons that could destroy every living thing on Earth's surface if used at full power. At the atmosphere, it was driven by atomic motors. You see, in Lop St. Rampel's book, The Lama from Tibet, he talks about these spaceships during the time when the dinosaurs was on the planet. These spaceships is the ones that the people in these spaceships drop bombs from the spaceships on the planet to kill the dinosaurs, because one of the dinosaurs had damn near ripped one of these Anunnaki in two, or one of these gods in two. So this is when they came with the idea of wiping them out with this nuclear weapon that these spaceships possessed. Okay, anyway, moving on. Just wanted to throw that in there right quick because it made me think of some shit. But outside the heavy side layer, it could be moved by thought, not only between planets, but into any space the mind of the pilot could visualize. Its structure was such that its materiality raised or lowered in vibration as the will of the operator commanded. Wait a minute, let me read that shit again. Its structure was such that its materiality raised or lowered in vibration as the will of the operator commanded. So they could literally, mentally, they had power over the material with their thoughts. That's what this shit is saying. See? But outside the heavy side layer, it could be moved by thought. Not only, what the hell? Damn camera acting up. Not only between planets, but into any space the mind of the pilot could visualize. Now that's heavy. As Thoth left the island of Unnell, although he does not mention it, Undale had already sunk. The great temple or place of the dweller also sank, but was not destroyed. The barbarians, upon meeting Thoth and his followers, the Atlanteans, attempted to kill them, but were struck motionless by a paralyzing ray from Thoth's staff or rod of power. This rod was capable of transmitting or causing forth hundreds of different manifestations of force directed by the will of the holder. The apparent supernatural power of Thoth caused the barbarians to submit to him. In his statement to them that he was a child of the sun is the basis for the worship of the sun among many ancient races. I be damned. Thoth was, of course, referring to the spiritual sun. It took many years to establish the new seat of the children of the sun. But when this was completed, missionaries were sent to other races to teach and guide them. Now the spiritual sun he's talking about is Amun-Ra, the hidden sun, aka Kundalini. But let's continue. As time passed, Thoth found it necessary to open a passage to Amenti for the renewal of his body. For even though filled with power after hundreds of years, it began to disintegrate. This was necessary because his work was not yet finished. After a long period of time, the barbarians of Kim developed in consciousness until they could go forward without the aid of Thoth. Thoth plans to enter the halls of Amenti and place his body under the flower of life while his consciousness goes elsewhere. The entrance to Amenti is below the Great Pyramid of Cheops or Khufu. Let me say something right here. This is very well needed to say, where it says his consciousness would go forward out of Thoth and will go into basically other bodies. In order to understand this in its whole totality, go check out books by Franz Bourdon, Initiations into the Hermetic. For one, that's a good one. And it talks about the transfers of consciousness into objects, also into other beings. So I'm not finna go into that shit because this video will be extremely long. It's gonna be long as hell anyway because of my commentary. Now if I just read it straight off, it won't be that long. So if y'all ain't got no mental endurance and you're not on this wave and you're trying to force yourself to be on this wave, don't do that because it's not time for you yet. Your higher self has not aligned it for you yet. Okay? So click off and go watch something else that feeds your mind. So here we see the entrance to Amenti is below the Great Pyramid of Cheops or Khufu, built by changing the atomic structure of stone until it became very light, and then after it was in place, changing it again. So we'll continue with the rest of Maurice Durrell's interpretation, but first we must go back to the emblem tablets itself, and see what Thoth says. Okay. Raised over the passage, a mighty pyramid, using the power that overcomes Earth's force gravity. Deep and yet deeper placed, a force house or chamber. From it carved a cellular passage reaching almost to the great summit. There in the apex set I the crystal, sending the ray into the time-space, drawing the force from out of the ether, concentrating upon the gateway to Amenti. Other chambers I built and left vacant to all seeing, yet hidden within them are the keys to Amenti. He who encouraged would dare the dark realms, let him be purified first by long fasting, lie in the sarcophagus of stone in my chamber. Then reveal I to him the great mysteries. Soon shall he follow to where I shall send. Soon shall he follow to where I shall meet him. Even in the darkness of earth shall I meet him. I, Thoth, Lord of wisdom, meet him and hold him and dwell with him always. So this right here would be astral travel. For you to lay in the sarcophagus, Thoth coming to basically snatch your ass up out of there. Okay? Also, the sarcophagus was used for transmigration as well. Anyway, continuing on. Built I the great pyramid, patterned after the pyramid of earth force, burning eternally so that it too might remain through the ages. In it I buried my knowledge of magic science so that it might be here. When again I returned from Amenti. Oh shit, let me reread it. Built out a great pyramid patterned after the pyramid of earth force, burning eternally so that it too might remain through the ages. In it I built my knowledge of magic science so that it might be here when I returned from Amenti. You hear that shit? He done hid some knowledge somewhere in the pyramid. Now I know I read that he buried his spaceship under the Great Sphinx. And also there are ancient historical manuscripts concerning so many ancient civilizations. Their lifestyle, their civilization, what it looked like, their technology. All of this is supposed to be buried under the Sphinx. And we wonder why the Sphinx ain't never been totally destroyed, or the pyramid of Egypt have never been totally destroyed. I mean, that's a great question. Why hasn't that been destroyed? They destroyed everything else black people made, invented, or either they stole the shit, or then again, they could just be using it to make money off of it. But I think it's something even far greater than that behind it, why they have not destroyed it yet. But anyway, let me continue. A. While I sleep in the halls of Amenti, my soul roaming free will incarnate, dwell among men in this form or another. See that? While his body is in suspended animation, his soul roams free. Well, it will incarnate into another body. But his original body is still alive. Emissary on earth am I of the dweller, fulfilling his command so men might be lifted. Now return I to the halls of Amenti, leaving behind me some of my wisdom. Preserve ye and keep ye the command of the dweller. Lift ever upward your eyes towards the light. Surely in time ye are one with the Master. Surely by right ye are one with the Master. Surely by right ye are one with the all. Now I depart from ye. Know my commandments. Keep them and be them, and I will be with you, helping and guiding you into the light. Now before me opens the portal, go I down into the darkness of night. Okay, that's the end of tablet 1. Now let us continue to read what we just read right over here about Thoth and the Great Pyramid and how he built his knowledge of magic science so that once he returned it'll be there, and how his soul is roaming free to dwell amongst men. Let's see what Maurice Durrell's interpretation gives us. Okay. Beneath the pyramid is the fourth room, connected with the apex of the pyramid by a central shaft or well. In the upper portions of the shaft is a lens or crystal through which rays from the fourth chamber are directed. These are bent into time-space and curving open a dimensional pathway from beneath the pyramid to the halls of Amenti, which, though in concurrent movement in space with the earth, exists in its own space. The hidden chambers are the ones spoken of in the book on the Great Pyramid. The sarcophagus connects with the central shaft. When one lies in it a specified length of time, his body is transported down the shaft to the central force chamber. The knowledge of this was preserved in later years but debased into a ritual of initiation. It was first necessary to coat the body with a certain ointment for the occupant to be transported, and the knowledge of this was not retained by the later Egyptians. I'm going to say something because in the book Beastmen and Gods by Ferdinand Osendawaski, he talks about an initiation that takes place where these children lay in like this, they lay down, it might be in the sarcophagus, but the masters over them, their gurus, they take their bodies on flight mentally. They mentally take their astral body, and they're moving their astral body to other planes of existence, like different planets, so that they can witness these people's language, understand these people's language, their woes, their foes, their governmental structures, their ways of civilization, their plant vegetation life, some of it, basically to learn as if they are on that planet living themselves, and they will go from planet to planet. And this is the same exact thing that Thoth-The Atlantean is laying out right here, that is being explained by Maurice Dorrell, except Maurice Dorrell he's saying that it was more physical than anything. See, his body is transported down the shaft to the central force chamber. See, the knowledge of this was preserved in later years, but debased into a ritualistic initiation. It was first necessary to coat the body with a certain ointment. See, it's talk about this shit when in the Beastmans and Gods, where the bodies were put in a certain ointment, and the children was going through this threshold of pain so that they can be become accustomed to pain, where pain would no longer exist to their physical body. They were put into this type of initiation. These children were. Like their body's been basically tormented, and then this ointment would be put on it to, I guess, heal the body, rejuvenate it real quickly. But they were being accustomed to pain, to where pain wouldn't even hurt them. They wouldn't even experience pain no more. And these are some of the things that trigger certain thoughts that I've read here concerning what I've read in Beastmans and Gods. Okay, continuing on, I just had to say that shit because it made me think of some things that I read. The Great Pyramid is indestructible. If its inner parts were disturbed, forces would be let loose by the guardians, which would destroy anyone or thing which came against it. So now we understand why they ain't never destroyed the pyramids. You see, I asked that question earlier. Why the hell they ain't never destroyed the pyramid for? Because they know that the guardians would destroy anyone or thing which came against it. Thoth later incarnated as Hermes, as other great teachers, though not always on earth. Thoth leaves with the statement that those to come after will in time be able to tread the same path. Now that was tablet 1. Now previously we went over the history of Thoth and Atlantis. Emblem Tablet 2, the Halls of Amenti. Deep in Earth's heart lie the Halls of Amenti. Deep in Earth's heart lie the Halls of Amenti. Far 'neath the islands of sunken Atlantis, halls of the dead and halls of the living, bathed in the fire of the infinite all. Far in a past time lost in the space-time, the children of light look down on the world, seeing the children of men in their bondage, bound by the force that came from beyond. And when they say that, it's simply talking about the demiurge and the archons and shit. Know they that only by freedom from bondage could man ever rise from the earth to the sun. Down they descended and created bodies. taking the semblance of men as their own. The masters of everything said after their forming, we are they who were formed from the space dust, partaking of life from the infinite all, living in the world as children of men, like and yet unlike the children of men. So here we see that they are made from space dust. Okay? The masters of it all. The masters of everything. So this is what it's talking about. Then for the dwelling place, far neath the earth's crust, blasted great spaces, they by their power, spaces apart from the children of men, surrounded them by forces and power, shielded from harm, they the halls of the dead. Side by side, then placed they other spaces, filled them with life and with light from above. Built they then the halls of Amenti, that they might dwell eternally there, living with life to eternity's end. So right here you see that the children of light, they went into the core of the earth in what they call Amenti, the halls of Amenti, in which the European slave makers, the nothing ass motherfuckers that enslaved our ancestors, called hell, and taught us against our own ancestors, our own salvation, our own shit, everything, our own original thought, because that's where our original thinking lies at. It's in the heart of Amenti. 32 were the children of men, sons of light, who had come among men. So it wasn't just Thoth. Seeking to free from the bondage of darkness those who were bound by the force from beyond. Again, the force from beyond is the demiurge and the archons. We'll get into that. For more information concerning the force that bounds man, that is from beyond, that is written, or you can find that in the Gnostic text or the Nag Hammadi library. Anyway, deep in the halls of life grew a flower. Now right here I'm telling you, this is talking about the beginning of the halls of Amenti. This is giving you the description of the beginning of the halls of Amenti, how it came into being. See, deep in the halls of life grew a flower, flaming. This is the central sun that's in the core of the earth, expanding, driving backwards the night. Placed in the center, a ray of great potence, life-giving, filling with power all who came near it. So this is why they would go in the halls of Amenti, and this sun, this central sun, would renew their body and they would never even die. Placed they around its thrones 30 and 2 and 30, 32 basically. Places for each of the children of light. Placed so that they were bathed into the radiance, filled with the light from the eternal light. And see, they are most definitely talking about the halls of Amenti or Agartha. For more information concerning Agartha or Shambhala, you can read The Smoky God. I forget who the author is, but it's a book called The Smoky God. You can also read Messages from the Hollow Earth. I forget the author, but that's the name of the book. It's called Messages from the Hollow Earth. The Call Goes Out from Telos. But let's see what Maurice Durrell has to say concerning this tablet, the beginning of this tablet, the halls of Amenti. The halls of Amenti are particular among hidden spaces of the earth And in that, they are not in this octave of material vibration, but are in a fold of space set aside from all other spaces. What he's saying is that it's another dimension. They're on another vibration, much higher vibration at that. So, in order for you to go to the halls of Amenti, you have to be vibrating very high. Okay? They have direct connection with the positive and negative polarities of the Yarkima, not translated. Their approximate location in relationship to the Earth is beneath Atlantis, but one has to move out of this space fold to enter. There are various places where this can be accomplished. Sulphur Springs, Oklahoma, Mount Shasta, California, Mictolian, South America, Shambhala, Tibet, Great Pyramid, Egypt, Black Forest, Germany, Benares, India, Atlas Mountains, Africa. The far past time is the first cycle, which is fixed in past space-time, and is that particular period just after the negative descended on man and bound him in the material plane. The masters of that period, or children of light, formed their own bodies from the primal matter and embodied it with life. Though these bodies had the same outward form as men, their interior structure was different, having sense organs usable only by a double unit of consciousness, male and female. They are not bound in the negative or disorder of man, and were therefore free to accomplish things the rest of mankind could not accomplish. Whereas the physical body of Thoth had to be renewed every 50 years, the primal body required renewing only once in 100 years. It was in the first cycle that the halls of Amenti were built, see, I said it, by the children of light who descended on this planet. That was the first cycle. By the forces they controlled, they warped space and structured Amenti and bound it to Earth. The dimensional walls around it protected it from entry by any except the highest consciousness. I just said that shit. So there is a parallel world already connected to this world. So there will be a merging of dimensions of consciousness that will take place in the hereafter of the real new world that's coming in. Even though the elites think their world coming in, Thoth and these 32 consorts or children of light have already written in their book, the emblem written in this book, Thoth being a representative of them all, have written in this book, the emblem tablets, that which will take place. If you understand the shift that is taking place. Okay? So, there will be a emergence of frequencies. There will be an alteration from this dimension to a higher dimension. This is the point of the Aquarian constellation. This is the point of the new age that is about to be upon us. This is the point of ascension. It's right here in the dim. Maurice Durrell is right on point. Okay? Let me read it one more time. It was in the first cycle that the halls of Amenti were built by the children of light who descended to this planet. By the forces they control, they warped space and structured Amenti and bound it to Earth. The dimensional walls around it protected it from entry by any except the highest consciousness. The great space was subdivided into other smaller spaces in direct concentration of force from the Yakima were centered in them. There were 32 of these children of light on earth having charge of the affairs of earth. Y'all see it? Time after time. Placed they their first created bodies so that they might be filled with the spirit of life, or the central sun that's in the core of the earth. Let's be clear about that. 100 years out of each 1,000 must the life-giving light flame forth on their bodies, quickening, awakening the spirit of life. There in the circle from eon to eon sit the great masters, giving a life not known amongst men. There in the halls of life they lie sleeping. Free flows their soul through the bodies of men. Time after time their bodies lie sleeping. Incarnate they in the bodies of men. So all of these great masters that have been sitting or sleeping from eon to eon, their physical bodies are just like Thoth in suspended animation. And through transmigration, they incarnate in the bodies of men. Alright? Teaching men, uplifting men. Look at that. Teaching and guiding onward and upward out of the darkness into the light. There in the hall of life, filled with their wisdom, known not to the races of men, living forever neath the cold fire of life, sit the children of light. Times there are when they awaken, come from the depths to be light among men, infinite they among finite men. We talking ascended masters, very high dimensional beings. He who by progress has grown from the darkness, lifted himself from the night into light, free is he made of the halls of Amenti, free of the flower of light and of life. Guided he then by wisdom and knowledge, passes from men to the master of light, to the master of life. There he may dwell as one with the masters, free from the bonds of the darkness of night. Seated within the flower of radiance sit 7 lords from the space-times above us, helping and guiding through infinite wisdom, the pathway through time of the children of men, mighty and strange, they veiled with their power, silent, all-knowing, drawing the life force, different yet one with the children of men. Different and yet one with the children of light. Let me say this shit, because I want this to be extremely clear when I say this. These 7 lords from space-time above us, helping and guiding us through infinite wisdom. These are the 7 chakrams. There is no way around this shit. See? Veiled with their power, silent, all-knowing, drawing the life force, different yet one with the children of men, drawing the life force. The life force is the Kundalini. It's the inner sun that's in you. We have an inner sun in us, just like our planet has an inner sun. Okay? They're drawing the life force. these seven lords. This is what gives them their life-giving splendor. It is the kundalini, or the electrical current. So it would be like these masters, how they used to go and they will go in the halls of life, or the halls of Amenti, and they will lie there sleeping, so that their bodies would be able to renew, quickening, awakening. See, 100 years out of each thousands must the life-giving light flame forth in their bodies. The same way that they would get the internal sun that's in Amenti, or the subterranean world, aka Agartha, so it is with the seven lords, aka seven chakrams or chakras. They have to get that life-giving light flame, kundalini. See? Drawing the life force. Anyway, moving on. Y'all get it. I hope. If not, rewind that shit. This is meant to be studied, not just overheard. This is that soul language when understood. That's why I love it in the beginning of it. In the preface, it talks about only those with the soul that is awakened will understand what is being said. So this is not for everybody at all. That's just plain as can be. Custodians and watchers of the force of man's bondage, ready to lose when the light has been reached. First and most mighty sits the veiled presence, Lord of Lords, the infinite nine, over the others from each cosmic cycle, weighing and watching the progress of men. Okay? Now let us see what Maurice Durrell has to say. In the halls was placed a concentration point of vital force or spirit, and to it is poured that a vital force of life which supplies the very life of the planet. When an object on earth disintegrates, the spirit which is freed is drawn to the flower of life in Amenti to be called forth at need. It acts for earth in the same capacity as the solar plexus acts for the human body. The thrones of the children of light were so placed that they were in the full flow of spirit which supplies their bodies as fast as they lose their own flesh. Let me read that over. The thrones of the children of light were so placed that they were in the full flow of spirit which supplied their bodies as fast as they lost their own flow. Thus a body placed under it did not have to draw life directly from the source, but bathed in its radiance. The balance was fully maintained when the consciousness was away, even though it be for centuries. The life force is so strong that the reservoir of the body placed under it for 100 years was so fulfilled that it would last for 1,000 years. Damn. Wait a minute. The life force is so strong that the reservoir of the body placed under it for 100 years was so fulfilled that it would last for 1,000 years without renewal. Thus, 10 years after each 100 will keep the body young and powerful. In most instances, the body was left for great periods of time, and the children of light entered the bodies of men through birth. But occasionally they came forth in their original bodies, though not often. When one has attained the third illumination, he is made free of Amenti, and can, if he desires, place his body beneath the fire of life and renew it from age to age. The 7 laws are direct emanations of extensions from the 7 cosmic consciousness beyond this. They work independent of and yet in harmony with this cosmic consciousness. They have control over certain forces beyond, such as negative disorder, and have emanations of all inhabited planets in this cosmos. Other functions of the lords are the control of time-space, separating the 4 times and holding back of an onrush of disorder from the negative reservoir upon the flames of consciousness which have broken away from it. It is their power which draws life force into its concentration point in the flower of life and holds it there. The Lord of Lords is the emanation from the 9th cosmic cycle and holds his or its title because it is the most highly developed and furthermost extension of this. Anyway, we're going to get back over here on his Maurice Dorel's interpretation, but let's go back and see what Thoth got to say on this next page. Under he sit, the Lord of the cycles, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, and don't forget about 9. Okay, we got the infinite 9 over here. It just don't say 9 over here, but we know it's 8 and 9, so it's 7 in all. So that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7 would be 9. But it's starting with 3. It don't say 1, 2, 3. It just say 3, 4, 5, 6. That's how the shit started. Don't ask me why. I don't know. But that's how it go. Anyway, under he sits the Lord of the cycles. Under he meaning the 9th, the Lord of Lords. See, under he sits the Lords of the cycles. There will be the root chakra, solar plex chakra, the heart chakra, the throat chakra, the brow chakra, the crown chakra. I mean the third eye chakra and the crown chakra. Wait a minute, see that again. That would be the root, sacral, heart, throat chakra, third eye chakra, and the crown chakra. And above the crown chakra will sit the 9th, or we will say the infinite 9th or Lord of Lords. So this is the alignment in which we were originally designed, as if we was in our light body, or we can actually activate all 12 DNA strands and that junk DNA. But anyway, moving on. Each with his mission, each with his powers, guiding, directing the destiny of men. So here we are getting a introduction to the 7 chakras, as well as the Lord of the cycles. There sit they, mighty and potent, free of all time and space. Not of this world they, yet akin to it. Elder brothers they, of the children of men. I told y'all, I've been trying to tell y'all that over each chakra center are ascended beings. Saint Germain is over 1. If I'm not mistaken, Sanat Kumara is over 1. I know Thoth is over one of them, the Atlantean. Okay, shit. They are far above this dimension. This is why they cannot be affected in no time. They live in everybody. They are connected to everything. This is the omnipresence, the omnipotent. Okay? The earth has, everything has a chakra center connected to it some way. Okay, so this is the infinite intelligence. Okay, I'm telling y'all. Alright. This shit probably beyond some of y'all. Look, there sit they, mighty and potent, free of all time and space. Not of this world they, yet akin to it, elder brothers they, of the children of men, judging and weighing. They with their wisdom watching the progress of light among men. Remember that video I made? It's called When the Student is Ready, the Master Will Appear. Yeah, this is what it's talking about. Okay, it's talking about these ascended beings. It's levels to this shit. There, before them, was I led by the dweller. Watched him bend with one from above. Watch him blend with one from above. Then from he came forth a voice saying, Great art thou, Thoth, amongst children of men. Free henceforth the halls of Amenti, master of life among children of men. Taste not of death except as thy will. Drink thou of life to eternity's end. Let me start reading for a second to say this. See, this is why Enoch never tastes death. And we are going into an inner sanctum of Enoch, what took place on him not even having to go through a death stage. Because Enoch and Thoth is one and the same. I just want y'all to know that shit. They're the same people. So Enoch is a real person. That ain't no biblical fairy tale, allegorical, made up shit. Now let's continue. Henceforth forever is life, thine for the taking. Henceforth is death at the call of thy hand. Dwell here or leave here when thou desirest. Free is Amenti to the Son of Man. Take thou up life in what form thou desirest. Child of the light that has grown amongst men. Let me say something. I gotta say this shit. I gotta say this. Could it be that in the book of Ezekiel, where Ezekiel saw these wheels coming out of the earth and upon his wheel stood the Son of Man? Could it be talking about the S-U-N, Son of Man? The Son of Men? Huh? Could it be talking about where they went referring to these beings that never would age because of this internal sun? These are the sons of men? Huh? But not known among men? Could it be talking about these people? So could what Ezekiel saw, where it say he saw the Son of Man who had the skin color of amber, actually be Thoth coming out of Amenti? Because we already read that Thoth said he coming back. And he getting rid of all these wicked motherfuckers. He getting rid of all the tyrants. Okay? So could it be that this is what we are actually witnessing? Take thou up life in what form thou desirest. Child of the light that has grown amongst men, choose thy work, for all souls must labor. Never be free from the pathway of light. One step thou hast gained on the long pathway upward. Infinite now is the mountain of life. Each step thou takest but heightens the mountains. All of thy progress but lengthens the goal. Approach ye ever the infinite wisdom. Ever before thee receives the goal. Free are ye made now of the halls of Amenti, to walk hand in hand with the lords of the world. One in one purpose walking together, bringer of light to the children of men. See, this is why I say he walked with God. What goddamn God? It say with the lords of the world. So he's walking with the seven lords. He's walking with the seven chakras that's already in him. He's already connected to the infinite all. This is why the Bible says that, and God said, let us make man. But technically, in the Hebrew text, it say, in the Elohim said, let us make man. Now, we know Elohim is a plural word meaning gods. More than one now. So we know that the Elohim are the 7 lords. Huh? We know this, which are the chakrams. God ain't never left. He just transferred. And has been transferred into a higher state of being or consciousness. But it's already within us. Just needs to be unlocked. You just got to get on the frequency. Like it said in this here book. It says that in order for you to get there, to be amongst them, you have to be on their vibration, on their wave. Okay? You have to be on there. You got to be in harmony with their cosmic consciousness. It's just that simple. Then from his throne came one of the masters, taking my hand and leading me onward through all the halls of the deep hidden land. Led he me through the halls of Amenti, showing the mysteries that are known not to man. Through the dark passage downward he led me into the hall where sits the dark death. Vast as space lay the great hall before me, walled by darkness, but yet filled with light. Before me arose a great throne of darkness. Veiled in it seated a figure of night. Now y'all hear this? I don't think y'all get this shit. I got to break this down. I got to break this shit down. From our own study. What he's talking about. This shit is so critical. I love it. Then, let me read this again so y'all can understand what he's trying to tell y'all. I'm finna get my interpretation, then I'm gonna read Maurice Dorrell's interpretation. Then from hid came out the masters, taking my hand and leading me onward through the halls of the deep hidden land. Led he through the halls of Amenti. Now he. We don't know who that is. Shit, for all we know, that could have been Osiris. Shit, that could have been Anubis. We don't know who the fuck that is. Okay, because it don't say. We can make speculations, but we don't know. Alright? Because 2 tablets was removed from the Emerald tablets, according to what we read in the beginning of this here video. Okay? So we don't know what them other tablets could have been saying. Could have been telling you everything you need to know without any trying to figuring it out. Okay, but led he me through the halls of Amenti, showing the mysteries that are known not to men. Through the dark pathway downward, he led me into the hall where sits the dark death. Vast as space lay the great hall before me, walled by darkness, but yet filled with light. Now let me just go ahead and break this shit down. I made the video concerning when the student is ready, the master will appear. And within, I really didn't want to go over this shit because I made a video concerning it. But since it's blatant that he didn't put the shit in his book or his tablets, I got to bring it to the light. I'm just going to touch on it. I'm not finna go in full detail. If you want to learn more about it, just go watch the video. It's called When the Student is Ready. The true saying behind when the student is ready, the master will appear. Go watch that video. But in the halls of Amenti, aka Agartha, aka the Hollow Earth, aka what the Caucasians call hell, which it is not hell. It's hell for them because there's no more black people down there. So imagine if a few white people were surrounded by nothing but black intelligent people. That'd be hell to them because it supersedes their white superiority complex. They would hate that shit with a passion. I'm just stating the fucking obvious. Otherwise, there wouldn't be no such thing as white supremacy. It would be absolute balance. Okay? There would be no such thing as systematic racism, being prejudiced and shit, and hiding the knowledge of black people throughout the world, and secret society studying our shit. Okay? So I'm just stating the fucking facts. If you don't like it, oh well, fuck it. Shit, it is what it is. Truth is the truth. I'm not finna sugarcoat this shit with y'all. Now, where it's talking about right here is that these ascended masters in Agartha, inside the inner earth, they go inside this big ass, vast space. The Great Hall is darkness. It is walled by darkness, but yet filled with light. Now, each light particle are specks of soul. These are pieces of everybody's soul on this planet or wherever they turn their attention to in the hall. In the halls of Amenti. Okay? And they can tell if a soul is ready to undergo the next initiation or to be met with an ascended master. Because if the light or these little specks of light in this great vast hall starts to beam, starts to really glow, they automatically know that the student is ready. That's when the master will appear. They go strictly off of that. Okay? That's how they can tell. This is what he's talking about. Filled with light. Darkness, but yet filled with light. So they're basically seeing the development of those that are either not on the frequency or they are ready to go to the next level. But now let's go to Maurice Durrell's interpretation. 1. Yod. I guess there's some Yahi Vahi type shit. Yod, He, Vahi. But there's Yod. It is the power which controls the negative in all cosmic cycles. Below him, but equal in regard to purpose and control of their own particular powers, are the lords of the other 6 cycles above us. Though not of this cosmic consciousness, they are akin to it for all age formed forth from the same basic material, ordered, disordered, and have been born from the same source, the Yod, the primal source of creation. Thoth was brought before the Lords by Horlet, the dweller on Unal. Okay. So we do have a name for this dweller. Alright. And there watched the dweller blend with one of the Lords. In other words, enter into such harmony that they became one. So that's why in the Bible Jesus say, I and my Father are one. It sounds like the Jesus in the Bible could possibly be Thoth-The Atlantean. That's what it sounds like. Or it possibly could be the dweller. I'm just saying, based off this shit I'm reading here, I'm getting some shit here. Shit starting to download. You know what I mean? And fall in sync with other things that I've read. Just saying now, it's a theory. It don't mean it's right, but it damn sure is aligning with one another. Okay? From him came forth a voice, the Lord's, not being of human form or vibration, could not speak in words. I bet they were speaking telepathy though. Their power was stepped down so that Thoth could hear. Later, he became able to raise his own vibration so that he could hear the silent voice of the Lord's. Boy, if this don't sound like some Jesus shit in the Bible. But this did not occur until he had passed certain tests. Thoth was given freedom of Amenti, or given the key whereby that space could be opened by him at will, and having access to the flower of life need die only when he willed. Man, this sounds like some shit in the Bible, except it's making sense. Unlike the Bible, it just say shit I want you to believe. Okay? So, here we have somebody with the keys to life and death. Don't that sound like Yahshua or Jesus 2,000 years ago? Or could this be a replication of us once we in our higher self? Because we know that Christ is a title, Jesus is a title, because it comes from Horus. Jesus does, meaning he's us. He's us, Jesus. He's actually us in our higher self. Okay, so this is the futuristic us that we are actually witnessing here. This is us once we achieve this electric body, this cosmic download, this cosmic consciousness, this cosmic website. Fuck the internet we got right now. That's some played out bullshit. I'm talking about a cosmic website. Anyway, moving on. Thoth learns the laws of creation. Come on, camera. So that he can take up any form or body he desires. Following the law, he must now choose what particular work he will do. For attainment of illumination brings greater opportunity and power to work. The height to width Thoth has attained is only a foothill of the greater mountains of transcendental light toward which all cosmic consciousness are working. As Thoth had attained one goal, he could henceforth walk with those seeking a greater goal. It was one of the 32 children of light, not one of the lords, who conducted Thoth on his first tour of the halls of Amenti. See, not one of the lords, meaning the seven chakras. I mean, yeah, that's right, 7 chakras, the major ones anyway. Okay. The places wherein the antithesis of life, which is death, reigned. This force being somewhat akin to that which is called life is found in the place of life. It may seem paradoxical to call death akin to life, but if we realize that it is through the action of death on the negative that life becomes freer, we can see its kinship. Now let us go back into the inner sanctum of the halls of Amenti. Darker than darkness sat the great figure, dark with a darkness not of the night. Before it then paused the master, speaking the word that brings about life, saying, O master of darkness, guide us the way from life unto life. Before thee I bring a son of the morning. Touch him not ever with the power of night. Call not his flame to the darkness of night. Know him and see him, one of our brothers, lifted from the darkness into the light. Release thou his flame from its bondage. Free let it flame through the darkness of night. Raised then the hand of the figure, forth came a flame that grew clear and bright, rolled back swiftly the curtain of darkness, unveiled the hall from the darkness of night. Then grew in the great space before me, flame after flame, from the veil of the night. Uncounted millions leaped they before me, some flashing forth as flowers of fire, others there were that shed a dim radiance. glowing but faintly from out of the night. Some there were that faded swiftly, others that grew from a small spark of light, each surrounded by its dim veil of darkness, yet flaming with light. They could never be quenched, coming and going like fireflies. In springtime filled they the space with light and with life. So here you are seeing souls, millions of souls. Some that were dim with radiance, but faintly. Some that sparked. Some that grew from a small spark of light. So you're seeing the rise or the raising of certain specks of light, which are souls that are in this hall, or we'll say a hall of Amenti. Then spoke a voice mighty and solemn, saying, these are lights that are souls among men. But I'm so on my shit, man. These are lights that are souls among men, growing and fading, existing forever, changing yet living, through death into life. When they have bloomed into flower, reach the zenith of growth in their life. Swiftly then send I my veil of darkness, shrewding and changing to new forms of life, steadily upward throughout the ages, growing, expanding into yet greater flame, lighting the darkness with yet greater power, quenched yet unquenched by the veil of the night. So grows the soul of man ever upward, quenched yet unquenched by the darkness of night. I, death, come, and yet I remain not, for life eternal exists in the all. Open only an obstacle I in the pathway, quick to be conquered by the infinite light. Awaken, O flame that burns ever inward. Flame forth and conquer the veil of the night. Now I'ma just say this. When I tell y'all I know my shit, I know my shit. Man. Anyway, let's move on. When it comes to this shit, I know this. It's a lot of things that I'm not good at. It's a lot of stuff that I don't master at. It's a lot of stuff that I can't speak on. But when it comes to this shit here, I know this shit. Now let's see what Maurice Durrell has to say. And before I say this about Maurice Durrell, y'all, please go revisit my video. When the student is ready, the master will appear. Because I'm breaking this shit down damn near the same way that Thoth-The Atlantean is breaking it down. That's how I know I'm on my shit. The Lord of Death. This Maurice Durrell. This is his interpretation. The Lord of Death is not one of the lords from cycles above, but is of this cosmic cycle. He has charge of the action of death force upon the negative which surrounds each spark of consciousness. The darkness which The darkness which is loss of consciousness or death is called night. For in the consciousness loses memory of that which has been. He is told not to touch thought with loss of consciousness. Hell no. I'm going to read that one more time for y'all. Y'all got to hear this shit. Listen to this shit. I got to read this shit again. There's some shit. The Lord of Death is not one of the lords from cycle above, but is of this cosmic cycle. He has charged the action of death force upon the negative which surrounds each spark of consciousness. Why y'all ain't getting this shit? See, this is why y'all need to go read the book by Napoleon Hill. It's called outwitting the devil. I'm not finna go into all that shit. But read it so you can understand right here. Mark these words. He has charged the action of death force upon the negative which surrounds each spark of consciousness. Read Napoleon Hill's book, Outwitting the Devil. You got to read that shit. That's a must read, just like you niggas read the Bible. Read that motherfucker. That darkness, which is loss of consciousness or death, is called night. For in the consciousness loses memory of that which has been. Okay? So every day we go to sleep, every day it turns nighttime. This is a representation of us having memory loss. As long as we have nighttime, it represents us having memory loss of who we truly are. It is a representation of memory loss, of past lives. Past lives beyond past lives. Our true origin. That's what it represents. Every day the motherfucking sunset, this is a representation of it. I don't think y'all understand this shit. See, you got to be able to see with your spiritual senses and your spiritual mind to understand exactly what this shit here is saying. That's why I had to reiterate on this. I had to read this shit again. Because I know I understand. Okay. Let's continue. That darkness, which is loss of consciousness or death, is called night. I told y'all, man, y'all better get it. Understand it. For in it, the consciousness loses memory of that which has been. He is told not to touch thought with loss of consciousness. Now we're going to go over a meditation that will cause a person to unlock that past life memory of all of their incarnations too. Because it's in this book. We're going to go over that. And I'm going to break it down exactly what the fuck it's talking about. Now I don't know how Maurice Durrell is going to break that down. But I have my idea and understanding of how to break it down. Because this is my first time actually reading this side. The translations, interpretation of Maurice Durrell, his interpretation. This is my first time actually reading this shit. Because when I read this, I read it out of my other book, The Emerald Tablet. I got another book. That is called The Emerald Tablet. Same book, except it don't have none of this and no interpretations in it. And some of the words are like the word La Elga Nuver. Like in this book, it mentioned the word La Elga Nuver. But, I mean, not in this book, but in the other one that I have, it say La Elga Nuver with an R on it. But in this one, it just say La Elga Nuv. We'll get there eventually. Might be a little minute, but we'll get there. So there's a few word variations that have been altered in this book. Anyway, the Lord of Death is told to see and recognize Thoth as a son of light, not to be held or touched by death. The hand of the Lord of Death is raised, sending forth flame, symbolical of the light concealed in the darkness of death. Light banishes the darkness. Thoth is shown uncounted millions of flames, each a soul manifesting on this plane. Man, I'm so on it. The brightness or dimness of the flame shows the degree of negative disorder in which they are bound. The Lord of Death tells Thoth of the mysteries of life and death, explaining how the soul incarnates in a physical body, reaches the zenith of its growth, and then passes through change to leap forth again with greater light. Death comes, but only as a temporary thing. Life itself is immortal, existing from the beginning to the end. Always in the end, life and light must conquer death and darkness. Death desires that life banishes his power, for even death came forth from light. Thoth is shown his own soul as it drives out the darkness and flames forth into full light. The guide then leads Thoth into other great spaces in Amenti and elsewhere, showing him mysteries revealed only to adepts. Among others, he was shown the inner spaces of the fourth dimensions. That's the astral plane. Okay, y'all, that's what it is. That's the fourth dimension. Thoth was again brought before the lords, and by the lords who had first spoken to him was commanded to choose his task, his work. Thoth, of his own accord, chooses to become a teacher, bringing souls from the darkness into light. He is verified in his choice by the Lord and commanded to go forth and work as he has chosen. So now we understanding who this Most High God is that the religious system has been taught about. Not the God sacrificing, jealous motherfucker. We know that's Yahweh. Okay, everybody know that shit. They got any fucking sense that have read other than one goddamn book all their life, meaning the Bible. Come out of that goddamn Bible, y'all. Start reading other shit. Read all over the world. Read everybody ancient texts. Okay? Because our ancient ancestors were far more advanced than this world's today's civilization. Anyway, let me continue because I've been went off on their ass the way the people are made to believe today. Anyway, that'll be a whole nother goddamn video. Anyway, Thoth is led upward to earth, there fulfilling the choice he has made. He chooses the statement that now again he goes to Amenti, leaving man for a time. Then in the midst of the flames in the darkness grew there one that drove forth the night, flaming, expanding even brighter until at last was nothing but light. Then spoke my guide, the voice of the master. See your own soul as it grows in the light, free now forever from the lords of the night. Y'all understanding what's taking place? They are in a great void of darkness in the halls of Amenti, witnessing these specks of light, looking like little lightning bulbs, but they are actually souls of the people. And Thoth is looking at his own soul. Forward, he led me through many great spaces, filled with the mysteries of the children of light, mysteries that man may never yet know of until he too is a son of light. Backwards then he led me into the light of the halls of the light. Knelt I then before the great masters, lords of all from the cycles above. Spoke he then with words of great power, saying, Thou hast been made free of the halls of Amenti. Choose thy work among men, among the children of men. Then spoke I, O great master, let me be a teacher of men, leading them onward and upward until they too are lights among men, free from the veil of the night that surrounds them, flaming with light that shall shine among men. Spoke to me the voice, go as ye will, and so be it decreed, master, are ye of your destiny, free to take or reject at will. Take ye the power, take ye the wisdom, shine as a light amongst the children of men. Upward then led me the dwelled I again amongst the children of men, teaching and showing some of my wisdom. That's Egypt, that's South America, known as Quetzalcoatl. Son of the light among fire, son of the light, a fire among men. Now again, I tread the path downward, seeking the light in the darkness of night. Hold ye and keep ye, preserve my record. Guide shall it be to the children of men. That's the end of tablet 2. We're going to continue with tablet 3.